Good afternoon from Kleinshire. Spring has sprung upon us rapidly here on the farm. I hate to complain, maybe a little too rapidly. In any case, it's accelerated some of our projects. One of them of immediate concern is my plan to frost seed the pastures. The problem isn't the warm weather. The problem is that the forecast for the foreseeable future has it warm during the day and warm at night as well. And that's going to cause us problems on multiple fronts, not only for frost seeding, but even with the syruping. We may have a short season if it doesn't cool down in the evenings. But with respect to the frost seeding, the problem is that we need to have frost at night so you get some of that seed to soil contact. I'm doing the best I can. Today I'm hoping to frost seed the front pasture where I've burned off all the brush already. And right now I've got my fire lit here in the goat pasture. We call it the goat pasture. It's our second pasture back. Had a lot of brush in here from 2 years ago, especially where we were cleaning. And I'm just trying to do my best to get a bunch of it off the pasture before I seed in that clover. I'm still working on that fire, and I may have the boys take over for me. They're little pyromaniacs. They don't mind keeping a fire going and finding branches for it. But it's getting late in the afternoon, and my goal, as I said, is to frost seed at least the front pasture. I should have some time tomorrow. I should be able to seed this pasture and the pasture behind it as well. But I should at least get started today. Hey, you guys. What? Do you want to build a fire?
Well, not exactly.
I thought you get excited about fires.
I am. Only making fires from coals.
Oh, all right.
I
Well,
make fire.
I still need you to work on it because I'm going to go
Okay.
seed the pastures. So have fun. Burn all those branches and anything you can find. And get your sled out of the pasture too.
That's fine.
Here we are, 100 pounds of Albert Lee certified organic medium red clover. You know, part of the reason that I'm so nervous about getting this right is simply the costs of the thing. This is not cheap stuff. I paid over $400 for these 2 bags. And therefore, if I'm going to put this on the pasture, I want to see clover. Let's see what we have in here. Look at that. It's a little bit like the mustard seed in the gospel. Except the plant that's produced is not that large either, I guess. There's a lot of seed in here. I'm supposed to apply about 8 pounds of clover per acre, pure live seed. Now this may not be pure live seed, so I'm probably looking at 10, 11 pounds per acre. I'm going to strategize though, because you'll see in the pasture that some of it is more wooded, some of it is a little more overcome with weeds, which may prevent the germination. So I'm not going to hit every area quite as heavily because I really want my bang for the buck with this expensive seed. So I'm going to strategize. And the question is how to do that, how to strategize your seed placement. Well, If I weren't strategizing it, I'd use something like this maybe. This is a hand spreader. I can walk along on my hilly pastures and simply spin this and have the seed be cast in a nice circle all about me. And if you look in here, I can adjust the amount of seed that gets through as I go. And I've used this actually in the field and it works very well. But frankly, I've also just cast it by hand in the field and I've had a pretty nice coverage with that as well. So especially this time, since I'm not planning for an even coverage, but a strategic coverage, I'm going to do an old-fashioned thing. I'm going to be a sower of grain and I'm just going to cast it out there and try to prioritize those spots where there's a little more bare soil and where I think it's going to come up. With the seed being as expensive as it is, and with the soil being wet, I think I'm going to place my paper bag inside this plastic chicken feed bag, if I can get it in there. Just protect the seed a little bit. Maybe one of these days I'll invest in one of those all-terrain vehicles, but right now I need to carry it like a baby, and oh, it's heavy. Catch my breath. I have 50 pounds of seed out here. Honestly, I'm not sure why I carried it all out, because this pasture, which you can see here, is probably, in terms of the open space that I'm trying to cover with seed, only about 1.25 acres. This is the front pasture, which has a tree line in it, and there's no sense putting that clover and the pine needles under the trees or something like that. So I will only need really to use about 20 pounds of this seed, and I'll save the rest for the pastures farther back when I work on this more tomorrow. Trying to guesstimate the weight here. I'm thinking this may be about 10 pounds of seed. Now for hand broadcasting, you need to take into consideration the wind. And we have wind blowing from the north, so I'm going to go upwind. And I'm going to cast a few times, get an idea of how far the seed is casting, and I'm going to try to be consistent. I need to be careful with this seed and make sure I'm covering and I'm not leaving gaps in the area I want covered. Well, that made a dent. Probably went through maybe 1.5 pounds of seed. If I pace off what I did so far, I think maybe I walked about 120 feet, and maybe I was casting seed 20 feet to my right. So 20 times 100, maybe 30 times 100, 300 square feet, more or less. And I'm supposed to cover 1 acre, which is 40-some thousand square feet, with maybe 10 to 11 pounds according to my plan. So I think I may need to make an adjustment before I run out of seed. But at least there will be plenty of clover up here in the front of the front pasture. It should look pretty from the road, I guess. Maybe you can see that I do one short and then I do one long. Basically, I'm looking down, and if I don't see seed below me, it means that the seed didn't reach that far on my last cast, on my last pass of casting, and therefore I need to sprinkle some close as well so I get better coverage. Well, I've reached where I set the bag, which was my marker, my stopping point, so I could go back and check my work. And I'm out here inspecting the bare spots here. There's some hoof prints, and look at that. Those are all clover seeds. There's a nice deep hoof print. Again, the same thing, plenty of seed in there. Yep. Especially where the soil is a little barer, the seeds have a better chance. I am going to have to slow down my coverage though, or I'm going to run short of seed for the back pastures. Maybe you're wondering, why am I going through the effort to seed the pasture when there's so much green stuff growing here already that obviously the goats have already been enjoying without any work on my part. Basically what it comes down to is that not all forage is created equal. A lot of your grasses have fairly good protein content, but you want a mix of things in your pasture, a lot of legumes. And although there are a lot of grasses in here and a lot of weeds that tend to choke out some of the better grasses, unfortunately, there isn't a lot of clover, which is the main legume used in pastures because it's perennial. So my goal in doing this is to make for a more diversified pasture environment in terms of what's growing there, and also to improve the forage, which, especially as we cut down more and more trees that aren't going to grow back anytime soon since we have the goats, we need better pasture if we're going to feed those goats. They're not going to get as much out of forage as they used to. All right, well, beyond that it's woods and not worth casting clover in. So this much left in the pail, and let's go see the damage from that front pasture. Well, I'd say there's about 25 pounds more. 25 pounds. I think I ended up spreading, well, what's the acreage there? Could go on the map. I could figure it out. Upon reevaluation though, I'd say we probably have an acre and a half that I just covered with 25 pounds. So we're talking something more like 15 pounds, and that might be generous, maybe 17 pounds per acre. And I was thinking 10 or 11 pounds per acre, so I used up a little bit more than I intended. Expensive. I'll have to adjust on the back pastures, I guess. I want to get the seed off the pasture because I have a treat for the horses and steers. They don't know about it yet. I read that it's helpful to have quote-unquote hoof action on the pasture for a couple days after spreading seed, because it'll help to press that seed in the soil just like the frost will. So these guys have not been on pasture for a few weeks, and now we get to let them out. They get to run around for a while. I think they're going to be excited. Hi, girl. What do you think? You want to go out? What do you think, Tarsi? Yeah. You want to go out? Yeah. All right, let's see what we can do. All right. There you go. Freedom. Freedom. Who's smart enough to go out? There we go, Tarsi. Go have fun. There we go. Yeah. Nobody ever accused steers of being smart, but they're gonna figure it out too. Look at that. Hey buddies, come out and enjoy yourselves. Yeah, freedom. You didn't expect it, did you? You go check on my fire. You never know what the boys will do with fire. We'll find out. What's going on here? We start the pyromaniacs young around here. Do you like the fire?
Hey.
Yeah. You guys kind of let it go out. What's up with that? Cletus, look at all those branches.
It's because the smoke won't stop going that way.
Oh, I do see you've been working on the wood chips. Good. Don't start another fire there, though. All right. Well, let's get this going again. Yes, actually. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to. Hi. Hi. No, what I read online is that, oh, you see the horses over there in the background? Hoof action. Look at that. What they're doing is they're working the seed into the soil. You just don't want them on here once it starts to germinate. What they're doing right now, though, is exactly what I want them to do. They're pressing the seed into the soil, hopefully with minimal compaction.